Greetings, everybody. Today is Monday, the 14th of October, 2024. It is 12 o'clock, just after 12 o'clock noon in London. And this is the third in our monthly series of global urban resilience and major city management webinars. Welcome to everybody. I hope you're doing well wherever in the world you are. I hope you're safe. I hope you're doing well. I hope you and yours are safe and warm or whatever it might be. And welcome to this, which is going to be on infrastructure resilience for our major cities. I don't know if you've noticed, but the whole damn world has gone crazy. The world has gone nuts. This planet, which we are living on, is changing on a planetary level for reasons which we have caused, but we can no longer impact or influence or affect at the moment. And so the environment that we're operating in is becoming increasingly challenging. We've seen that with the recent hurricanes in Florida, for example, and Florida's been hit by 2 hurricanes. And the question is, what does that mean in terms of the sustainability or the viability of Florida? Of course, the vast majority of our major cities are built either on the coast or on major rivers. And climate change, global warming, and the rising sea levels are undoubtedly going to have an impact on what that means. 25 years ago, in 1988, 1999, I was writing about cities underwater and flooding. But that was once in a 100-year event. And that was genuinely something that was an anonymous event, which we had to be ready for. We can no longer claim that cities underwater, cities on fire, global heating are anomalous events. They are part of the environment we're operating in. And the question which many of us are facing, especially those involved in planning or management of major cities, is what does a major city, what does the running of a major city look like as we move towards 2030? Vision 2030, Strategy 2030 has been something we've been discussing for many years, but with the idea that Strategy 2030 was somewhere in the future. It's no longer in the future. It is pretty much just around the corner. We now see projects moving out to Strategy 24, for example, in Jakarta, or Strategy 2050, Vision 2050 moving forward. Sarah, I'm just going to mute you down. Yes, okay, you've done it yourself. Thank you. Please, everyone, just make sure your mics are off. So the cities that we live in, are being challenged in ways which I think we can say are probably unprecedented. And even if the challenges themselves are not unprecedented, there's undoubtedly a capability gap in our understanding of what that means or how we can model it, how we can prepare for and engage it. So I'm delighted to say that we've put together this series of programs to identify or to discuss that from multiple perspectives with a global audience, global panelists, but also a global audience like yourselves. The first one we had a couple of months ago was on what is major global urban resilience in the 2020s. Last month, we had community resilience, where it all starts. This month, we have infrastructure resilience, keeping our cities running. Next month, we have food resilience, keeping our cities fed. And so we will move through a number of programs. We have with us here Emma Antrobus, who is the Northwest representative of the institution, as I've learned to call it, the Institution of Civil Engineers, who is highly experienced in all aspects of bringing the engineering solutions to our major cities. We have Andy Chitawaman, who's coming in from Indonesia, from McDonald, who leads on their water policy programs, something which, of course, is of incredible significance to any major city. And we have Michael Edgerton, who I'm not quite sure if he's arrived yet. If you are, Michael, please make yourself known. But Mike is the security manager for the New York and New Jersey Port Authority. So it is quite possible that he's had an emergency on his hands and had to deal with something for which we forgive him, of course. We have also here Kathy Oldham, who has been very much instrumental in setting up this program. She is co-chair, along with myself, of the Strategic Steering Group, which has 21 people from 17 countries. Kathy, what I'll do is I'll bring you in first from the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, where she is Chief Resilience Officer. Kathy, let's bring you in just to give some maybe just a little overview of sort of set the scene, if you will, as somebody who's involved in one of the great global cities, Manchester, and the impact, what resilience means within that context. And then we'll come to our panelists. They'll each give an introduction for 6 or 7 minutes. We will then have a roundtable discussion, but we very, very much also encourage the engagement of our global audience. That's why we have it as a meeting rather than a webinar. So feel free to put notes, to put comments in the comment section, and then I will be giving people a chance to come in and share their thoughts towards the end of the session. But for now, Kathy, why don't we start off and bring you in?
Well, thank you very much, David. And I just want to say thank you to our speakers as well, because for me, infrastructure resilience is one of the big topics that we need to talk about if we're creating resilient urban environments and resilient cities. I mean, it strikes me that our infrastructure is they're the lifelines of the city, and they bring our essential services, all those services that help to keep people basically alive, but with a sense of well-being and enable people to function. And I think from my perspective, there's a few issues around infrastructure. I mean, firstly, it is much more interconnected and interdependent than it ever was. And I think also our understanding of what constitutes our infrastructure is changing. So, the role of our digital infrastructure is huge nowadays. And certainly our mayor talks about having access to the digital world should be a right for everyone. And that puts it on a par with all other essential services, such as, water and fuel. And I think we also recognise the role of our green infrastructure now and talk about it in those terms. But I think, like everything else, there are challenges around resilience. So, I would like there to be redundancy and robustness and all sorts of things in our infrastructure, but it has to be cost efficient and it has to be paid for as well. And I think the risks our infrastructure faces, as David has touched on, go from natural hazards like what will heat do in the future, as well as flood. And what about malicious threats and cyber threats? We're going to be facing all of those. So I'm really looking forward to today. I'm going to admit I have to leave at UK time. It's 1 p.m. But it gives me a chance to say to everybody on the call that one of the things that we've been doing with this series is David's team have been taking the recordings and then publishing them as a really easy to listen to set of recordings that are just brilliant. And we're also looking to write up some of the sessions so you can read about them as well. So it's just, the last two were absolutely fantastic. And knowing some of our speakers today, I know that today is just going to be amazing as well. So enough from me, and I'll hand back to you, David.
Kathy, thank you. Now you know why we love Kathy so much. She gives good introduction. So Kathy, thank you for that. And it's been a pleasure to have you and the support you've given. Genuinely, you've been instrumental in putting this together.